Okay, good morning.
Good morning. We are in Yoreh Samech Vav. So we are dealing in the sugya of blood, and the main sugya for today is going to be eggs. You crack open your eggs, and you want to cook them, right? So what happens when you find a drop of blood? So we started yesterday. I'm not going to do a complete repeat, but just to point out. So what happens is a little bit about the metzias is when you have an egg, believe it or not, it takes 21 days for basically an invisible embryo by the germinal disc inside the egg to get from what you can't really see except a white little dot. It's the cells that were fertilized until it hatches. So all that grows and happens in. Try not to squeeze it. That takes 21 days. Now, how does the egg develop? It's just really important to understand that when the egg first develops inside the chicken, it starts out, there's no shell. Right? The shell is at the end of the stage of the egg forming, and then it's laid. Before the shell, you end up with these little yellow balls, and more of an oval shape. And anyway, so that is and there's a little white, well, eventually it becomes white. I'm not sure if it starts out as white, but basically you have this little dot, the egg, which gets fertilized, and that stays there and starts to divide inside the chicken. And
Doesn't get fertilized.
well, it can get
It
fertilized.
can get fertilized, but the egg itself will form regardless of whether or not
Yeah. We're talking about fertilized eggs.
Okay, we're
So
talking
it gets
specific.
fertilized inside the chicken, and then it starts to grow. There's the yellow, the yolk, the white, or the clear albumin, and that's the it grows, and then it forms the shell, and it's laid. When the yellow is forming, there are blood vessels, right? Arteries and veins that go to and from the yellow yolk. So there's blood vessels there as it's forming from the mother. Those blood vessels belong to the mother. And what often happens when the egg is forming, you can end up with a drop of blood inside the egg. So in general, it's always from the mother. Exactly. That drop of blood starts out from the mother. Okay. Then, when the egg continues to form, now, the rokem ha'efroach is the development, right? Embroidery or rakma, whatever. It's the development of that cell that keeps on dividing, the cells, the embryo, and then it becomes, right, more, it gets larger and larger as it keeps on dividing and becomes more specialized and develops, right? And into the different organs, and it gets bigger. And then at some point, it's not clear, or not clear to me at least, when can blood come out of the embryo? All right. Now, we're not going to fully understand this halacha perfectly because it happens to be the Gemara argues on the halacha and Metzias, apparently the Metzias, but certainly the halacha. The Rishonim grapple with it and the Achronim grapple with it. And some say the dam is only aser midaraisa, and some say the dam is 100% mutter, except for Marasain. So, we're not going to get into all the different opinions. It gets quite confusing. And even when you read the poskim inside, it's a little bit confusing. So anyway, but the bottom line halacha is, the psak is, we treat the drop of blood, if it's attached to the yellow, as dam d'oraisa. That's at least the bottom line psak. And the dam that's aser d'oraisa, is it coming from, now some point out it's actually a suffix d'oraisa of dam, because we're not sure if it's the dam that's coming from the embryo or coming from the mother. And okay, so there are different opinions on how to treat that. But anyways, well, we consider it either deraisa or suffix deraisa, and that's the halacha. What else do I need to just point out? Yeah, so it's unclear the blood, and part of the issue is we don't know when you look at the egg and you don't have a chick, looking at you inside when it's really really small. It's hard to know also where the blood's coming from and what stage it's at. And so some poskim point out it's also just a din of lo plug. We treat it like a daraisa, or we treat it like a tzisr darabanan, depending on which rishon, because we want to make sure we're avoiding the dam from the afroach, from the actual chick, and we don't know at what stage. So then the shach points out when an egg is laid on day one, that egg on day one is already we're talking about, and is already on the level of a din daraisa. But many of the achronim point out it's not possible. On day one, we know it's just a white dot. There's nothing there, no blood is coming out of it. So again, lo plug, this, that, machlokas. But the halacha bottom line is on day one, if you see blood, all the halachas that we did learn apply on day one. But many of the achronim, including the Aruch Shulchan, Chazanish, Matnei Shulchan, say if you have a case, again, this doesn't really happen nowadays, so we're going to move on because we have unfertilized eggs. Everything we've been discussing about is with fertilized eggs. In a case of a hefsed meruba, one egg's not going to be a hefsed meruba, but let's say you're cooking in that egg and you put it in your chillent, and it's not going to be batel bashishim. So then they point out that there is what to rely on if the egg was a 1-day-old egg. If you know that was just laid that one first day, and it gets all mixed in, even if you saw blood in it, you just take out the blood and you eat the rest. Even if we paskin that kol beitza asura, the question is if that's on day one or not. That's also a big machlokas.
Point of information: the health food stores in America sell fertilized eggs.
Okay, so you could buy fertilized eggs. Okay, that's right, as a specialty item. And that's important that you point out. It's as a specialty item that's going to come up in Zion very shortly. So I think that pretty much covers basically understanding how that works. Okay, and when we say kol habeitza asura, so the Gemara says if that one drop of blood. Again, either that drop of blood. There's two ways to understand it. It's giving life to the embryo, is how Chazal understood it, or that drop of blood came from the embryo. There's two ways to understand, it's not clear. And Pashtus from the poskim, it seems like it came from the embryo. But again, it's not 100% clear. But then why is kol habeitza asura? So the Gemara says, because from that embryo, or from that drop of blood, spread out into the entire egg. And it ruined the whole egg. What does that mean? So some explain that means the whole egg is asur midin dam, like there's a mashu of dam that goes throughout the whole egg, or, as our Moshe pointed out, that it refers to sheret sa'of. In other words, just like a chick is asur, it's a lav, even though it wasn't hatched and it doesn't walk around on the ground, there's a special lav on a chick, so too, like an unwalking, it didn't finish walking. Otherwise, it gets to a chicken. But sheret, from a limud of sheret sa'of, or just sherets, that's again machloket rishonim, if it's called sheret sa'of or sherets. And so the whole egg might be an isser lav based on that special din of sheret sa'of, or just that it's a chick, the embryo. The embryo itself, as it grows up and becomes a bigger embryo and a fetus and a chick. Okay, and afroach includes all the stages. And a rokem afroach refers to like when it's at a cell stage, basically, or just starting out to develop. And then the afroach is anywhere along the way till it's walking. Okay, let's go to Seif Daled. Beitzim matrufos bekiara. Now, what happens if you scramble the eggs? They're not cooked yet, not scrambled eggs, but you scramble the egg whites with the yolks. Beitzim matrufos bekiara, they're all mixed together. V'nimtza dam al chelmon shel echad mehem. And then you look at it, and you see that there is a blood spot, again, with fertilized eggs. You see a blood spot on the yellow, on the yolk, on one of them, right? Let's say you have 10 of them. אף על פי שזרקו החלמון שעליו אדם, אסור מפני שמאחר שהם תרופות בקערה, החלבון שהודק מתערב ביחד והכל אסר. Once it's scrambled, it makes it all aser. Aval, beitzim shavurot.
Trufot scrambled or just cracked open?
No, you scrambled. Beitzim shavurot. Now this is you crack the eggs. Yad beke'ara. They're all together in a bowl. Below trufot, but you didn't scramble them. If they're scrambled, we learned that the whole egg, when they're scrambled, we learned that when you see a drop of blood on the yellow, the entire egg is an isser. The rice of the rabbanan we mentioned. The whole thing is the entire thing is aser, and it's not batel, so therefore it all gets mixed together. So that's why it's aser. Here, it's not scrambled yet. So what do? V'nimtza dam b'chelmon. You see a drop of blood on the yellow. What do? Yikach hachelmonim haksherim. Kol echad v'achad b'fnei atzmo v'hen mutarim. No problem. Scoop out every single yolk and all the white that comes with it. 100% kosher. V'yashir ota asher ba adam b'ke'ara im chelboni hasha'ar v'yizrakim. And you leave the one yolk in the bowl that has the drop of blood and whatever egg white is stuck to it, and you throw that out. It says to take out all the other, just practice is a practical issue. Practically, it just works much better to remove it. If you remove all the ksherim, all the kosher egg yolks, and you leave everything else. If you try and do the opposite, then you might end up mixing it all together. Because what?
There's a misprint in the old editions here. You have the Yitzhadab Helva, that's correct.
Okay.
But a lot of editions
So make sure you have the right edition. Okay. It goes like I read it or I explained. Now the only time you have to be strict is if you know you saw the drop of blood on the yellow where it's aser. If it's a safek, you may have a makom osro olo. But if you're not sure, you know there is a drop of blood. You have no clue if it was on the yellow or on the white. Yesh lahatir ta'arovet, you could be matir, any mixture. Right, there's issues of chad betray. Okay, there's a whole discussion in the Achronim how to deal with mixtures and if you got cooked together, but we're gonna keep going. Ubilav hachi chad betray batil. Generally 1 and 2 makes it mutter. We're just machmer. But if you have a cup and there's only 1 egg in there, there's no, or maybe 2 because you caught the tray. Or you know there was a drop of blood on the yellow and then you cooked it or roasted it. And you're not sure where it is, then you have to throw it out. What does that mean? Again, if you have a drop of blood and it's on, you know there's a drop of blood, but you're not sure if it's on the yellow or on the white, and you didn't look. You mixed it up, you cooked it, you didn't pay attention, but you saw the drop of blood. You don't know if it's on the yellow or on the white, it's aser, the whole thing, because you should have checked, you need to know. But if you know it was, but if you're not sure and it gets mixed up with others, then it's okay. That's what he's saying. All right, okay. Now let's go to Hey. Now you find a drop of blood where it doesn't make it aser, like on the yellow, on the not the yellow, on the white. And you didn't throw away the blood. Let's say you make a mistake and you forgot and you mixed it all together. So the Shulchan Aruch writes, this is it's not on the yellow in this case. That's why. Right. It's not on the yellow. If it'd be on the yellow, then it'd make it aser. That's what we just read. Here you find it on the white, and therefore it's okay. So therefore it's mutter. Some, again, the Shach points out, some say the whole thing is really all mutter, and it's all right. Ayin. Yeah, this isn't after. This is before. You better check and remove. And either way, in hay, if you find a drop of blood anywhere in the egg whites, so I think we learned, or at least I did, there's a drop of blood on the egg white, you have to remove it, mishum maris ayin. Yeah, I think we read that in Gimel. Okay. So, well, it's because it's on the white, so it's only maris ayin, and it gets mixed in, you don't see it anymore. There's no kanas. It's an Isser of maris ayin, and now there's no ayin, there's no blood, you don't see anything anymore. So therefore it becomes 100% mutter. Some say there is a kanas if you did it b'mezid. That's what the Shach says. It's probably usher if you did it b'mezid. You can't mix maris ayin dam on purpose to not take it out. Okay, let's go to Vav. I want to do Vav and Zayin. Nimtza dam bebeitza shesamua ala chamin litztamik. Now you put an egg on top of the cholent or on top of something to cook, and then you open it up and you see blood inside. Kevon she'ein b'makom habeitza rotev mutar kol hachamin. So really, I believe my understanding is it's fine because you have the klipa of the shell. So I don't.
What does it mean? Welcome our base are roasted. In other words, it's dry on the top.
Under the egg.
No, so it depends. Let me explain. If there's a klipa, if it's with the shell, there's no problem. Because even though the egg is aser, it doesn't aser the whole. The post it doesn't go through the egg and aser all the food. The flavor of the dam or the basar, whatever's inside, doesn't really have a flavor. It's like there's nothing really there to give any flavor, and it doesn't pass through. Even I believe even without the egg, then you just have to remove k'dei klipa. I think. Okay. Yeah. I'll just leave it as I remember. The poskim have a big discussion what to do if you cracked open the egg and you cooked it directly on the food without the shell. That is a discussion how to deal with it. Okay. But if it's in the shell, for sure it's not a problem. And again, all these are talking about fertilized eggs.
If it's not in multiple roasted.
Right. Yeah. That's right. If
somehow right on top.
That's without the shell. With the shell, I believe it's not an issue. Okay, we could double check. The egg always is in the water, but I don't think it's an issue. Okay, let's get to Zayin. Beitzim hamuzarot. Now this is our eggs. How to read and how to translate this word is it's a good question. It's not clear what the expression comes from, but it means unfertilized eggs. Perush nifsidu v'nasu ke'ein matve. Some say it became destroyed or ruined or something it's kilkul. It's not something that's usable. In other words, normally people are interested in having fertilized eggs. In fact, the Gemara says, unfertilized eggs, you don't have to worry about the blood, except it's aser for most people, unless it doesn't, nauseate you. It doesn't make you nauseous. It's not an issue of mi'us and bal tishaktu. So, here, let's just, fine. Nowadays, we all eat it, and it's not an issue about tishaktu. So unfertilized eggs are not an issue. Afilu yashvar tanagolot eliyam yamim harbe muter leocham ubilvad sheyizrok hadam. So any unfertilized egg, right? They're not going to develop a chick. Doesn't matter how long it's been heated or incubated, or a hen or a chicken was sitting on it. It won't make a difference. It's always mutter. Any blood you see in there, you just have to remove the drop of blood because of maras ayin and zehu. Now, we mentioned there's a minhag, what to do with, now, by the way, the expression, just so you know, there's an expression in Chazal, safna da'ara, it just means the friction or the heat. The heat from the ground is what made it develop. But it's not but it has nothing to do with, there was no, it wasn't fertilized. And so I'll just point out, so we learned in the Ramah that the minhag by Ashkenazim and some Sfardim is if it's fertilized, anywhere you see an egg, you throw it out to avoid al shailas. With unfertilized egg, there's absolutely no such minhag. If you know for sure you have an unfertilized egg, then at 100%, you just take out that drop of blood if you can. Sometimes not so easy. And then the rest of the egg is 100% kosher. Doesn't matter where you find the drop of blood, on the white or on the yellow, doesn't matter, and there's no minhag to be machmer. I'll just point out one thing. Igros Moshe and Minchas Yitzchak, they say it's good to be machmer in their days when most of the eggs were unfertilized, but there were some fertilized eggs getting mixed in. Deah Omer writes, even in those cases, there's no reason or no need to be machmer. They also just said it's a chumrah, it's tov lahachmer, and as far as I know nowadays, it's kimat en. You're not going to find when you go to the store and you buy the normal eggs. I believe there's pretty much no chance that they are fertilized. So there's really no minhag whatsoever. A lot of people do throw it out, but there's no need for it.